Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of 20 Question Tuesdays. I'm Jeff Plankenhorn. Let me know if you can hear me out there, everybody. Hi, Jana. Sounds good? Okay, I had to do a little bit of a refresh. I don't think you guys actually heard the beautiful songs that I had attached to that countdown video online. Anyway, technical difficulties happen. What are you going to do? We are here today, and 20 Question Tuesdays, basically, I started early on in the pandemic. I just flipped on the camera, 11 a.m. here on the Pacific Coast on a Tuesday, and I started taking questions. And people from all over started asking about songwriting, about the music business. Everybody, it's just been so wonderful. Shortly after that, Sheila Steele from Austin Music TV, which we are transmitting to right now, and we should always thank Sheila and Austin Music TV for that. They asked me to put the show on their channel, and when I did, I got this restream thing, and it was really cool, and all of a sudden I realized I could have guests. What's cooler than that? I get to have guests. And it's just been really wonderful. Hi to everybody online. Thanks. Jimmy Baldwin, I just lost your question, and you owe me an email. So I'm going to do just a quick little bit of housekeeping before we invite Sara Hickman on. And thanks for all the incredible questions. One of the coolest things I love about this show is that it's your questions. It's not my questions as much. And you guys just put them in on the various online platforms, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. So if one isn't working, click on another one. We've got people on all of them right now, which is really wonderful. I see Avondale, Pennsylvania. Hi, Laura. Nice to see you. Like I said, Jimmy Baldwin, you owe me an email regarding our workshop tomorrow that Scrappy Judd Newcomb and I are doing. We're doing our first ever songwriting workshop called This Song Sucks. Because that's what happens sometimes. You write songs, and, the first one isn't always the best one. And so we've got about 10 people that are going to come online with us, and we're going to do an interactive workshop. And if you want any information on that, then just message me somewhere, anywhere, the website, whatever. But right now, I want to get right to it. And hopefully Sara is all ready to go. I've got alarms going off everywhere to let me know that I'm online. And I'm shutting those off bit by bit. And right now, without further ado, everybody, I'm hoping Sara's here with me. If not, we'll get her lined up really quick. I'll start asking questions. But thank you all for being here, and welcome. Nope. No, Sara? Are you here?
I'm here.
I don't see your picture. Can we?
Where's my picture?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, that's just the fun technical difficulty. If you go to the square that says settings, we have to make sure your camera is on. There's a little wheel that says settings. We did a sound check. I promise everybody we did one. You want to sign out and just sign back in?
Okay.
Do it, and you'll be right back super fast, I promise.
Okay. I will.
These are the things. These are the things that happen. There she is. She's coming back, but I still don't see her. Yeah, I still don't see ya. Laura says hi to Sara Hickman. Jimmy Baldwin says, I can't wait. Oh, that was your question. There she is.
Hi.
Ta-da!
I could see you, and I was enjoying your awesome, beautiful beard and hair.
You want to see an awesome beard and hair?
I don't know how
This one has the awesome beard and hair. This is Alice, and we were talking with Twig right before the show, right?
I just sent Twig upstairs because she's very, very animated, so I didn't know how.
Alice is the one too.
She's working now at your dog, so
I think they would get together. Oscar is a little bit more of the loaf of bread variety. He just plops down. He's kind of a corgi terrier mix. But Alice, she's a star. She loves to be on, and we have matching beards.
She's
very confused right now too. Oh,
well,
yeah.
If he was here, we could have a game time because they would run around and collect pecans.
I gotta say, I think dogs have really kind of kept my wife and I sane during this thing, being home for sure. We're dog people. One of them's from Austin Pets Alive. The other's from another shelter. We found her in Gonzales, of all places. She was on the street in Gonzales, just had a litter. So she's, needless to say, she's got some issues, but we understand.
Yeah, our
Um,
dog is from a stray in Palacios, Texas.
is that right?
And yeah, and I wanted to save the stray. I was calling her Scruffy, but the lady that owns the hardware store in Palacios got her first. And then she called me and said, Scruffy's going to have 4 puppies. You want one? And I was like, yeah. And
Can
so
I not have one? Yes, I want.
I
Nikki
wish it was
Turman
all 4,
says, Nikki
but
Turman says, I love your glasses, Sarah. And so I'm gonna,
it,
oh, don't do, there you go. My buddy Jimmy Baldwin, I'm gonna start with this question. I just jump right into the questions because I love everybody's questions. We get questions from people who don't write music, from people who are in the business, for people who have been doing it for years. You never know who's going to show up on this deal. And it's one of the things I love the most about it. But Jimmy Baldwin, I know well. He's going to be at my songwriting workshop tomorrow. And he says,
are you in the video with him? The chicken video?
"Oh, we what? The what now?"
Oh, well, Jimmy's my friend too, and I'm in his chicken fried steak video. I don't know if you saw that video.
I don't think I've seen the chicken fried steak one, but I'm involved in another thing altogether. But Jimmy's question for you is, and this is a good one. Do you remember the first song you ever wrote? Because he does.
I don't think that he does.
That's not possible. He says maybe he means maybe Jimmy means he remembers the first song he ever wrote.
Well, you know what I think he's probably thinking? This is what most people think. Most people think my song "Simply" is the first song I ever wrote, which I wrote when I was 17 for the first boy I fell in love with. But my first song I actually wrote when I was 6, and it was about the Bible, because the Daughters of the American Revolution in Houston, Texas, at my elementary school, were having a little patriotic poetry contest. And I took my poem and turned it into a song. And that was also my first time on stage. I walked out on stage with my guitar. I didn't know about guitar straps. I didn't know anything. I didn't know about microphones. I just walked up to the and radio mics, and I sang, and I stood like a flamingo and held my guitar and sang this little song about, and I won first place, and I got $25.
Ooh.
And that song is on my album Misfits. I think it's on there because I had it on a cassette. Because did you used to get your radio cassette recorder and put cassettes in and then just make up shows and record commercials?
Oh yeah.
Every song on AM or FM radio, and you'd record it, right? You know, so you could hear it again because it would only come around every once in a while. But yeah, so I had a friend of mine bake the cassette and save the song, and it's on one of my albums.
See, now this is the kind of thing that I love. Like, how does that come up? How does that kind of story come up? These are the weird kind of off the wall questions that I absolutely love about this show. And I wouldn't have known to ask or send you in that direction, which is like super, super, super cool. And Jimmy himself just goes, wow. So I'm with him.
You know, it was one of those things I just always knew. That's all I wanted to do. I didn't know. I didn't know about the world of the music industry, but
the business of music.
I just knew I loved holding my guitar. I have like 80 guitars. I'm sure you have a bunch too. And
I got a couple.
Yeah. And thanks Takamine, thanks all the Gibson, thanks everybody. I couldn't wait to get home from school and pick up my guitar. I would run upstairs and I would write everything. I wrote my own eulogy on guitar, and then I wrote it and I put it inside my guitar on a piece of paper. So I would have somebody find it if I died and they needed to read it at my funeral when I was 7. I was way advanced. you
mentioned a really, really, really cool thing, and that is that you love holding the guitar, you know? And like many, many, many a night when I first started playing guitar, I would fall asleep with the guitar in my twin bed.
Oh my God.
I mean, no question about it. No question. And I mean, you would think that this big clunky piece of wood, you know, would not be a thing, but you know, you get your arm wrapped around it or something or whatever. And you know,
and
it's a thing.
The sound of the guitar is delightful. It's kind
of, I agree.
You know what it smells like to me? Let me see if it smells this way right now. I bet you've never had anybody smell a guitar on your show, but
oh no, maybe not on the show, but we all smell our guitars. There's no question, especially when you have new guitar smell or you have old guitar smell, which can be funky but can be great too.
Yeah, well, and if it's been in someone's closet and it hasn't been and it's got that funky, not moldy, but I always, when I go to the zoo and I smell elephants, it reminds me of guitars.
Wow.
They have some kind of earthy, similar smell to me.
This I have not heard. Now, I'm going to let you answer this question because I know you're going to say it better. Jana Pokop asks, what is baking a cassette?
Okay. Well, there's a really great guy named David Huff here in Austin, Texas. And I think other people do it too, but he was, and maybe probably still is, the sound for Austin City Limits.
Right.
And when I did Austin City Limits, we just struck up a conversation, and I was telling him how I had all these old cassettes, but I knew that they were flaking, and I was looking for somebody that was into baking cassettes. So they I think it's like really low. Like, is it 125 or 200 degrees? It's very.
I can't remember.
You have to know what you're doing. So you actually put the cassette. You can also do this with 2-inch tape. You put it in your oven and you bake. And so the chemistry of the tape and the coagulant or whatever it is, the magnetic seal, they bake back together, and it saves your tape. So you can run it through a machine or digitalize it or whatever you want. So he saved my cassettes so I could put them on my album Misfits, which was a collection of songs that never ended up anywhere. So.
Which is so cool. Some similar thing might have happened with my buddies, the Flatlanders. They had found, like, Lloyd Maines found a tape in a triphonic studio, if you could believe triphonic was a thing. It was what was that old song? It was like it was the one thing. What was that? There was a song called like In the Year 2000 or something like that. It was this crazy pop song in the 60s, but it was recorded right outside of Lubbock. And
that guy with the question mark?
Maybe. I think so.
99.
I think so.
That same guy? I bet it
maybe.
was.
I bet it was. So they found it, and they had to go through a really, really similar process. Now, Jana, I would also say, because we all know from watching Inglourious Bastards that tape is highly flammable. So it's not for the faint of heart. You have to know what to do it at. Don't try this at home. Let's go ahead and tell everybody that before they all start stuffing their tapes in the oven and going, I'm just preserving it. I'm just preserving it. Let somebody important do it for sure. Let's jump around here a little bit. Speaking of that, Jana has a great question that I would love to ask you right now, and I know you're going to have some fun questions. What are we missing?
Love you.
Okay. She says, I'm going to the studio to work on my solo record, finally. And I say that for her as well, finally, in a couple of weeks. I am a big fan of Jana's music.
My God.
And guitar playing.
She's one of my favorite songwriters. I have to say.
Yeah.
That 1, 2, 3 Scream with Mark Addison, that album is brilliant.
There's a lot of really, really great stuff going on. Friends, feel free. If you guys want, please put some Jana stuff so that she doesn't feel weird about this. Put it in the chat. I love putting other people's stuff in the chat while we're doing this. We all get to know each other here. It's a hip thing to do. So Danielle or anybody, you want to put something in there, or her Patreon page or something like that. So she says, I'm going into the studio to work on my solo record finally in a couple weeks. What are Sarah, your studio prep pointers, or maybe some must-haves for a recording day? Now, this can be professional. This can be, I'm an incense gal. This can be, I love a good chocolate chip cookie. It could be a little shot of whiskey. What's your thing?
Okay, first of all, I like to go in feeling really confident, very strong, very beautiful. So I put on my best, whatever my favorite shirt is, if it's soft or it's got a graphic I like, or somebody gave it to me and it has sentimental value. I usually take some little things that have good juju for me, like this. Hold on.
Oh yeah, we're ready. Do it.
I wouldn't.
We're talking about studio stuff.
I wouldn't necessarily take this one, but I'm a huge Kuropi fan from Japan, because like in the early 90s.
You even said it right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's Kuropi for short, but I have collected Kuropi since 1990. I had a fan in Japan that started sending them to me. But I don't burn incense. I don't burn candles. Because I have allergies. You
got to worry about the voice.
So for me, a clean studio, no smokers, no. I like there to be mellow lighting. I've actually
No, I'm ready.
Weird.
I'm ready.
I do this, Jana. But one time I was recording in Los Angeles at David Kirschenbaum's house, and it was so hot, and I took off all my clothes. I was in the
Excuse me, wait a second.
so I actually recorded a couple songs naked, and it was actually really lovely.
I could see that being very freeing. I would like, I'm going to do that in a solo ISO booth if I do it. Anybody else, I'm sure you felt free and comfortable.
If Jana wants to call her next album Totally Nude, and she can all her songs naked,
or she could just call it Sarah Told Me to Get Naked.
Sarah
Yeah.
Well, Jana, so the other thing is, snack. My favorite drinks, but generally the studios I go to, they spoil you rotten, right? So
don't they? Yeah, there's always lots of stuff nowadays. It's not like it used to be. I'm at the age where I can go, oh God, I remember going and the coffee's at
like Congress House. Mark Hallman has this, he grinds his beans and they make you little cup espressos, and I mean, so each studio has its own vibe. It depends on where you're going. So I guess for me, I have all my notes. I'm a big, I like
note taker.
I don't like doing it on the computer. I have all my notes printed out, and then when I'm sitting with the engineer, because generally I'm producing. If someone else is producing, then I still want to have notes. But that way I can write the notes down and show somebody. I don't have to move a computer or show them my phone. I just pass it around, and then they can write on it too. And then at the end, I have this beautiful thing. Like I have all my notes from Adrian Blue.
Ooh, cool.
And it's this little secretarial notebook he kept, and it's with his meticulous handwriting. It's the whole album, all his notes, and I love it so much. Right? You can't.
It means something to you afterwards.
Emails. I mean, you could print them out, but there's something about written notes. So for me, going in the studio is really important, that I feel loved, that I'm surrounded by people who love me, that I can make mistakes and not, I don't mind constructive criticism, but I don't want any negativity.
Yeah. Do you find pre-production is a big thing? Because I hear a lot of people say, and what is your idea? I'm going to help with Jana's question. By the way, she said she's going to be at the Congress House. Vibes are so good. That's right. If you got Holman and you got everybody there, we know. I've been there from Eliza to, so many great records. Like we can't even start counting how many great records were made there.
When you go in there, he's got that wall of photos. There's a really beautiful photo of me, him, Mark Hallman, me, and Marty Lester right before I had my first child, Lily. And it's just cool to see, because Mark keeps like all the tape notes that Ani DeFranco put on the soundboard.
Yeah. We gotta have you keep good vibe stuff.
So I have several CDs up there because I love Mark, and he's chillest of the chill. There sure are a lot of Marks in Austin to work with.
Well, that's true too with recording and stuff. But I think that definitely talking to people about, there's something great about like having a song that was like made in the studio, but there's also so much money can be saved by singing your song 100 times before you go in.
Yes.
It's going to change no matter what. But
if you're working with other musicians, I definitely prefer having rehearsals ahead of time. Now, maybe because of the COVID, that would be difficult, but you can still do it with Zoom or whatever. Or you can
virtually go through songs.
I definitely am for saving money. And I for pre-production, for me, I write out all my notes on all the songs.
Uh-oh, are you still there? I may or may. Oh, there we go. No, you're back.
Very important to me that I also work with professionals, because every once in a while I'll bring in someone that's a newbie, but I find, like you're working with Scrappy Judd tomorrow. If Scrappy comes in, the other thing I want to say, Jana, and Jana, you're more seasoned than you're coming across. I know you know what you're doing, but that was a nice question of you. I I did an album at Mark Addison's studio with Mark, Scrappy, and Donnie Wynn, and it was just the four of us. And it was a really cool experience, because before each song, I would explain the emotional and spiritual relationship I had to how this song was created and why it was important to me, so that all the guys are on the same page of it not just being a song, but that there was intention behind it.
Yeah, more than musically.
and there was such a spiritual vibe out there. Mark Addison's place is out in the middle of nowhere. It's in the middle of a farmland, and cows walk by this big picture window while you're singing. It was the first time, I'm going to get a little teary-eyed right now.
Oh, that's good.
I was singing a song about a friend of mine that committed suicide. And towards the end, our intention was we played everything live, and then Mark would do some overdub stuff. But I normally would stack, so I'd put down a click track, put my guitar, and then I start adding stuff. In this scenario, we did everything live, and it was really moving. And I was at the end of the song, and I just was wailing my head off, and I just started bawling but because I had told them, and we'd already been working together a couple weeks, I didn't feel, it didn't disrupt my performance. It didn't make me go, oh no, I'm crying. It added to my performance because I could feel them going there with me,
Yeah.
So I definitely think when you go in the studio, having everybody on the same page about what your message is and what your intention is and where you want to take people. A recording isn't just a bunch of songs. And especially, this is what makes me sad about the loss of physical, because the artwork and the order of the songs and the space between the songs, all of that is a story. There's the overall arcing story, and then there's the separate little song. And now that people are streaming and stuff's out of order, and I feel really sad that we've lost the beauty of an artist sharing more with you than just each individual song. That there's
if I could say something that I've gotten from people like Scrappy, who, yes, I work a lot with and all that kind of stuff, and people like him, one of the things that they've said that has encouraged me on that front is because there is a small niche of people who still like vinyl and still like an album, those people get it. And it's kind of nice because we still have these people. It's like, okay, yeah, you want to take my single and you want to try and blast it all over Spotify. I'm doing stuff right now to try and build it. Fine. I want my 0.003 cents. But I'm still going to continue to make art the way I want, because the world that we live in now, there's enough people out there that I don't have to be a household name to have a great career.
Oh, yeah. No, and I'm not even
It's beautiful.
That. I'm talking more about, there's a difference between when show and I hand them this
tactile,
it's
tactile,
package
right?
with all the notes. And another thing, when you're streaming, you're not going to get the notes about who's
playing on it or anything.
And I know you're this way. When I was a kid, I would ride my bike to the store, to the music store, and I would save up my dimes, and I would go buy an album, and I would ride back home on my bike, and I would open the album, and I would pull out the liner notes. Even before I put the record on, I was like,
we would want to look through all that stuff first. I totally agree.
Oh my God, yes. It's, Russ Kunkel, or whoever, it was like, oh, and then you would see that on the next album, completely different. And you would start making these matches of who were really good studio musicians, and why did they use this producer, and why did they perform in this studio, and why did they pick this kind of packaging. And to me, that, I don't know, I'm just a tactile person. I mean, my whole house art. So I find it, I find it amazing. Like, my kids know so much about music, more than I would, because they're bombarded and they go out and seek, and music is everywhere now. And that's the beautiful part of it.
And they can Google anything. It's easy for them to Google stuff about people. Like, how do they know about who Doug Sahm played with in this? Or how do they know? And you're just like, oh, well, yeah, because they just looked it up in 20 seconds.
I was rude to Doug Sahm. I feel so bad about it.
That happens. I'm sure he was rude to somebody at some time too.
He walked at the Arc. Did you ever rehearse there? And
oh yeah.
And I was.
It was before my time, but I know of the Arc, and I know about people. Before my time.
You would walk around, there'd be Ray Wiley, and there'd be Ray Benson. Everybody was there. It was a big family vibe. It was awesome. And he literally opened the door and walked in on my rehearsal. It was me and Chris Searles and I don't know who else. But I was like, excuse me. And he's like, hey, blah, 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 whatever he said. And I was like, I'm in the middle of rehearsal right now. And so can I get back to you on that? And he was like, oh, okay.
Good for you. Yeah. I mean, honestly, whatever. Like,
in the room. Hey, you want to sit in with me, or can I help you? Or
I'm trying to rehearse here, man. I don't know. That's okay. I've done the same kind of thing. When I met Augie Myers, I was recording on an album for somebody, and we played this town song, and I played first, and then Augie played right after me, and then Augie came out and he said, "Hey man, you sounded great. I want to use you on a blues album." I said, "That's fantastic." He's like, "Yeah, I'm doing this thing," and la 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 la. And then I heard the word Doug Somm, and I had just moved to Texas like a week before, and I looked at Augie and I went, "You knew Doug Somm?" Needless to say, Augie never called me. He never called me. Hey, look at that.
There you go.
This is from, okay, let's just jump right into it because you got that right here. Let's just do a little bit of what this is and how to find it.
Can you believe it? Okay, well, it is my Texas Musicians coloring book. And it's not just a coloring book, it's also a fact book. So I took all the facts and I did things like make crossword puzzles.
I'm going to do this here. I'm going to do this. Yeah. I'm going to make you big screen for a minute, and I'm going to go away, and you're just going to talk about this. First of all, I see the Buddha with the lotus flower. Who is that? Wait, no, that's not Buddha. Okay, hold on. I'm going to make you big screen, and I can't speak for a minute. You just talk about it.
Thanks. Okay. Well, a couple years ago, I got an idea. Needed to be a Texas Musicians coloring book, and there wasn't one. So I thought, well, I better get busy. So I sold my grandmother's Steinway piano to pay for this book, and love it, and Sarah Bird and Terry Lacona of Austin City Limits, and Jimmy LaFave, Jimmy Dale Gilmore, and a bunch of people. They wrote some really nice stuff on the back, and then the inside is all these awesome Texas musicians. And that was really the hardest part, was choosing who was going to be in my book. Here's Casey Musgraves. Oh, look how beautiful she is. Such a great songwriter. And here's the facts about her. She got little butterflies everywhere. But I sold this book. I think I have about 5 copies left out of 1,000. And it raised about $15,000 to help the Sam Community Center, which I'm the volunteer executive director of, in Palacios, Texas. And it used to be the Palacios Colored School from 1928 to 1964 during segregation. And It's now a historical building and a community center, and with a focus on bringing all people together. So that's why I made this coloring book. And it's also chock full of little stories about like how I know Chris Kirshner, how I worked with Edie Brickell or whatever. So it's got little funny things, or who I dated, stuff like that hidden in there.
Well, to get back into the questions and to go from this, if you're kind of, for lack of a better word, activism / community involvement, keeping damn busy. We have a video that you sent me that I would love to play right now, and I know we're having some buffering issues right now. Everybody, I'm on Vancouver Island. I'm hardwired. Hopefully, it's coming out okay. Hopefully, everything's working out. Yeah,
Vancouver Island.
Yeah, my wife was born and bred here. We came up here right before the pandemic really started having a big effect, and we've been here ever since. So I'm going to, and I'll be back as soon as I can. But first, I'm going to open up the video.
Play it?
Yeah, I'm going to. Oh, yeah, you could set it up for sure.
Let me just talk a little bit about. Okay, so one of the things I've learned over the course of my life is I like bringing different people together, and I like making things happen, and I like making things.
I know how you feel.
Good, like to make the world more kind and compassionate. So back in May, I did a Sarathon. It was 24-hour live show I did to raise money for some nonprofits and just to have fun because it was a pandemic. And so I made this big chart, and there was 10 songs per hour over 24 hours for me to perform. And one of the songs was Salt of the Earth by the Rolling Stones, which I've always liked since I was a kid. And then I thought, well, if I record this song and put it out, it seems like a potent time to do this. And then I realized, I don't want to just do it by myself. So I ended up remotely recording with Gina Chavez and Ruthie Foster and Carolyn Wonderland and Jackie Vinson and Brandon Temple. Anyway, there's 32 people. The 2 bass players keeping it down are Kathy Valentine from Go-Go's and Bubba Hernandez from Brave Combo. And 3 full drummers. We have a full string quartet with Carrie Rodriguez, Danny Levin, Warren Hood, and Brian Standifer, Danny Levin. And it's Salt of the Earth. And then my friend Jean Cowan put
Yeah.
together this beautiful video. And any money that comes on behalf of this song or video goes to support one of the 12 nonprofits that I have on my page, necessaryangels.com.
Which I can do this right now. Wait for it. Wait for it. Now that's high tech.
You are amazing. You are so amazing. I'm so psyched to be here. You have no idea. Thank you.
I'm keeping up the facade that I'm a professional is what I'm doing. What I really want to do though is let's check this video out. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll be right back, everybody. And hopefully it's going to play perfectly.
1, 2, 3.
Let's drink to the hardworking people. Let's drink to the salt of the earth. Raise your glass to the good and the hopeful. Let's drink to the salt of the earth.
Say a prayer for the common foot soldier.
Spare a thought for a backbreaking word.
Say a prayer for the women and the children who burn the fires and who still till the earth.
Wow. Wow.
Oh my God, that took me 6 months.
Well, I mean, it shows work-wise. Okay, so you mentioned something in the chat while we were. We have a little private chat. Sorry, folks, we have a private chat here. But you mentioned something. A few things. Where you put the emphasis in a couple of different ways regarding this song. Would you like to talk about that?
Yeah. Thanks for first of all, thanks for playing all the way through the credits, because
It's important.
I think. Yeah, most people after Terry Hendricks ends with that, then they kind of click off. But
Well, I'm not most people.
Well, that means a lot. Back to the full project,
Yeah, because it's important. Everybody was involved in that. It's not just
It was, and you just had Guy and Jessica on your show, and they're in there.
They sure are.
Yeah, so I wanted the bulk of the song to be a celebration and also a reminder of how many people during this pandemic around the world, whether they're farmers, they're in the medical system, or they're people working at the grocery store, all these people matter, and they're putting their lives on the line. And so this song was a celebration of them, and also a reminder of the children down at the border. You saw that little kid behind the oldest child, Lily, Lily Hickman Walden. They are in a band called Flora and Fauna, and the outro, that's Lily, Ruthie Foster, and Gina Chavez, and with an emphasis on Lily. So Lily shine there.
Well, and not to mention a great percentage of the guitar work there was some of my favorite guitar players in Austin and anywhere in the world, but they just happen to be some of the best female guitar players.
Yeah, well, the thing that has always ticked me off as a musician who happens to be a woman is the expectation that I'm not going to rise.
Yeah,
that I'm going to get on stage and I'll play D, A, and G or whatever, and that'll be it. And so when I get off stage and people go, "Man, I didn't," and also because I'm blonde, I'm going to say part of it. I wanted this recording to really focus on strong players who happen to be women. So when Jackie said yes, and well, actually, the very first person that even signed up was Kathy Valentine. So she laid down her bass line just to my scratch guitar, and then we built off of my scratch guitar and her bass line.
Kathy Valentine is a tone. Kathy Valentine is a tone-having player.
Have you had her on your show? Because her book is
and you know what? That's a great one to write down. I don't have Kathy, but the last time she and the gals were on Texas Radio Live, when I was still doing that, when I was doing that with Orangeburger. It was sort of a weird thing, but I sure loved doing it. We'd go do Texas Radio Live and stuff. And she's just a tone-having great player all around.
Yeah, and when I read her book, I never realized that she didn't know how to play the bass until she was asked in the bathroom in Los Angeles, I think at, I don't remember which club it was, but one of the big clubs. And
writing this down, by the way.
Was in there and just said, hey, I hear you play. Can you play bass? And Kathy said yes. She went home and crammed and learned all these bass, which is, going from playing a guitar to bass is not an easy thing.
No, it's not what everybody thinks. People think less strings. Oh, it must be easier.
No, it's going from baby elephant to big elephant.
Well, it's a different animal altogether.
Yes, you should have her on your show. Very, very good book. And, the pandemic kind of screwed up her book tour.
Of course. So we have to do whatever we can to try and, anything that has to do with shining a light, on voices that are minimalized in any way, shape, or form. We just got to do it as much as we can.
Gosh. Okay. So thank you, Laura Sternfeld Strand, who's very nice. And she is one of my necessary angels all the way back from 1994. She helped buy the album back from Elektra so I could put it out independently, which was a big deal back then. She just had a suggestion that you should have Flora and Fauna on your show, because they were the KUTX Artists of the Month in September. And they are, I know this is my oldest child, but I'm just.
You may be a little bit, but no, I'm sure you're being.
Yes. I'll send you their info too, just in case you want to have them on.
Will do. I mean, this show is really, really kind of just taken off in a beautiful way. It started as just, like I said in the intro, just turning on my camera and taking questions because I just figured, people were bored at the time. And it's at a very strange time. And I know a lot of people go back throughout the week and they watch it. We'll find out throughout the weeks to come. Different people will say they watch the show. And I don't know. It's just one of those things where when your heart's in the right place, things just kind of work out. So let's keep going with the questions if that's okay, because we have some really good questions I want to get to. Also, for the people who are on Austin Music TV right now, usually we'll stay online afterwards for a couple of minutes just to make sure we get to as many of these questions as we can without taking too much time of Sarah's. Also, I should mention that I always just try and just say this once during the show. We are two underemployed musicians, so I do appreciate. I always split the tips with my guest, and so thank you very, very much for that. Thanks, Danielle, for putting that in the comments as well. But let's go back to, we've got some really, really, really great questions here. A quick one. Has Sara returned to live performing? I heard she retired a couple years ago. And these people are kind of interested if you're doing any live performance that's safe, socially distant, pandemic involved. Is this something happening in your life right now that you feel comfortable with?
Well,
It's a tough question.
When my last show was March 18th, 2017, I think.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. I mean, all the final shows I had around the U.S. were, I couldn't believe how sold out they were and how just loving people were, and all the stories they had to share. I'm sure you get this too, are affected by your songs and your vibe. And during this pandemic, I started singing once a day, and then I was doing a Friday concert, and then I did my Sarathon where I played for 24 hours straight. And the pandemic made me realize that there are people that wanted to hear the reassurance from me that things are going to be okay, and that really touched my heart.
Of course.
I didn't really think I make that much of a difference, but I started playing, and it was hard at first because I hadn't played in a while and my hands were really out of shape, but my muscle memory finally kicked in, and so I would probably start playing again. I just went and played at the Mucky Duck to nobody. Well, I had two friends in the audience, but I played Poor David's Pub, and there was nobody there, and there was a bittersweet joy to return to these two places that were packed, and then this time there's nobody there, and we're live streaming.
Yeah.
So people from Australia and Spain and Japan were in on the shows this time, and that was kind of a different thing. It was cool. It was like this, where people were asking questions, but David Card or Lisa from the Mucky Duck, they would come out and say, so and so from Japan wants to know, and then I would answer the question, and then I'd sing a song. So I've come to realize in my 57 years that what I really loved the most about performing was the honor of bringing people together. I love walking into a room and
connection,
everyone's a stranger, but at the end of it, it was one big family. And if people were having a shitty day, can I say shitty? Oh, I said it twice. Sorry.
You just did.
Okay. Well,
it's cable. It's cable.
Oh, okay. If I can do it, I can do it. So there's that joy of, you had a thought, you sat in your room, you worked on a song, you put the song together, then you record it maybe or not, but you sing it live, and then people react to it, and people have such visceral different reactions and thoughts about what this song is about, and that's all really incredible. And sometimes, I've sung songs that are setting. I have a song called The One that I wrote after Cho murdered all the people at Virginia Tech. And it's from his mother's perspective. And it's a very haunting, very sad song. And I upset a lot of people with that song because guns are a hard thing to talk about. Murder is a hard thing to talk about. But overall, people, I think, associate me with love. and that makes me happy. And so I do miss that out of these family reunions, and I miss microphone. There's something magical about walking up to like, I think it's because I'm still 6 years old, and you're like all of a sudden really loud. It's like, whoa!
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Can I say also, like, I kind of find, not that the men aren't doing anything, but in a good portion of my life, it has been the women that I've worked with who are a little bit more fearless as far as being able to take something political. I spent a lot of time on the road for a couple of years straight with Eliza Gilkison. And to be able to take a topic, you know, maybe like a terrorism plot or something like that, and be able to see things and talk about things. There were people who would get hurt, but just fearless and still have it be a beautiful song. And I gotta say, a lot of times I've been constantly looking up to the women in this way, and they've kind of paved a path for me to, if I feel like writing a song about something, it's often who I look to, whether it's Eliza or it's you or it's Ruthie or whoever it is. They've been a huge influence on me that way. I also, want to say regarding what you were talking about there too, sometimes we get on and there's 150 people watching when we do. Like tonight, I'll do my regular live stream later tonight. And sometimes I get on and I see there's 150. And by the end of the week, 1,000 people have viewed it or whatever. And sometimes I get on, there's 20 people. And I asked some friends that said, well, business-wise, you should really, really do it less. And the people that kind of tuned in said, please don't do that. We count on it every week. I don't care if there's 5 people. If they count on it and this is what they're getting and they're stuck at home, then I really kind of feel a need to do it big time. And I also kind of feel like what I miss is, what I've often said to people is that live performance for me is almost exactly like being in the audience. When I'm at a show and I'm enjoying a really, really, really great performance, the feeling that I get is almost exactly the feeling. It's so close to the feeling I get when I do a good show and I'm out of my head. So the older I get, the more I take myself out of it, the more it becomes a communication thing, and the more it becomes, it's just, that thing where it becomes less about you and it becomes more about everybody kind of vibing on the same thing. These things can still be accomplished in a strange way, and we're all finding really, really interesting ways to do it. You yourself are finding many ways to do it through the pandemic. There's a couple of people here, first of all, we have people watching from Africa right now, somebody, and then it's awesome.
Uganda? Because I go to Uganda to work with.
Oh, I'm not sure where he was from. Let me go back.
Oh, that's so
Anyway, I'll check it out. We can always check out these things later. But we also have people who have said, Laura says Sarah's getting us through this pandemic. I mean, how are you not gonna take that? You could take that for granted, or you can say, well, I'm not gonna make any money if I do this show and blah blah blah. But when you see something like that, when I do not this show, I meant like if I do a live stream or something like that. Long story short, I just feel indebted to the people that still, and I used to feel that way too. If somebody went and they paid between $10 and $20 to come hear me play, good God, they worked hard for that money. I'm not taking that for granted.
Yeah, I think, I was social distancing in a park yesterday with the beautiful Terry Hendricks, and we were talking about music, making music. I used to have a podcast too called Studio of the Future, and she came on that. Eliza came on that. Different people came on that. It was really fun. But I didn't do what you're doing. I didn't do a video podcast. I just did a podcast. But the emphasis yesterday of one of the subjects we were talking about was just make music. Just don't, because I can't speak for you, but I was, my scenario was I made music from 6 years old, and everything I did, I seemed to win first place. So the first talent show, then the second talent show, then in junior high, I beat out this guy that was dressed like Dolly Parton because one of his water balloon burst, and I thought, well, I'm not going to beat that because it was hilarious. And then I played the opening to Heaven, and I played part of Greg's song, and then I played Nobody Does It Better, and I won again. And it just kept encouraging me and then when I got into the music industry, when I got signed first to Windham Hill and then to Elektra, it becomes a different animal,
Yes.
because you have
There's a
other
lot more involved.
who own you. They are banks. That's what
Oh,
they
yeah.
are. They're banks. And you are an artist. So you're bringing a bank and an artist together. Now, in my, I feel really blessed. I had a really nice manager, Kevin Womack, and I listened. One of the first things I think Ray Benson told me was, when you're in a room, just listen and you'll pick up a lot of shit.
You're
And
so right.
I realized that knowing the business aspect would behoove me, and it did, and I'm really grateful for that. But now that we're on the other side of the whole industry and we're doing it ourselves, there's a sloughing off of all that business.
I totally agree.
I go online later today, and 12 people show up. That's 12 people that are taking time, to come and watch me. And
This is exactly how I feel.
I don't like that. I mean, because definitely, all the social media stuff about having, I had some people, I'll tell you a really short story. I had some people here last year after South by, people I've known a long time, actually from Elektra, who are still in the industry and still doing amazing things with other labels and da-da-da. And they came over and they started pitching stuff at me, old school stuff. Like, if you do this and you do this, because they went online and you only have 6,000 followers. That's not very many. Here's how you can. And by the time they left, I felt a little defeated, like, wow, so I'm not doing very good. And my husband was mad. He was like, you know what? Yeah. Screw that. You bring the right amount of joy to the right amount of people, and we make a living off of the things I do. And so I feel super blessed, and I'm really grateful for that one person. Laura Sternfeld-Strand writes me a card every week. I go to my P.O. box and there's some sweet little Snoopy card from her. There's people that have been following me and following you since they first figured out that I was out there.
That we were doing something, yeah. And we can't take it for granted.
Well, they're family, and I can't let them down. I can't. And plus, I think part of me was stepping away and retiring was I was just tired. I worked really hard, and I'll tell you, I was a little heartbroken. I couldn't figure out what's wrong. Am I not pretty enough? Because in our industry, it's about how sexy you are. And do I not sing good enough? Do I not write good enough songs? Do I not play guitar well? I had people in the industry saying, if you would talk less and just play more songs, if you would.
Oh, I'm so tired of that crap.
I don't think you as a man ever got that, but I got
sure. Look, I'm gonna say right off the bat, and I'm sorry this format makes me interrupt, so I apologize way too late in advance. One of the first pro bands for J Records that I played guitar for, I got there and they said, okay, after one show, I just showed up, no rehearsal, played big show at FYI in New York City, and I got there and the manager said, okay, we want you, fly your stuff up. And I said, oh, that's funny. Am I going to have to cut my hair? And she said, oh, no, your hair is great. It offsets his, and I was like, I know what I'm in for now. What I'm in for now is a lot more entertainment than music.
Yes. Yeah.
A lot more. It's a lot more entertainment. It's a lot more business. It's a lot more this. Do we write songs? Once you get to a certain level, not to mention you're playing the exact same songs every night in the same order with the same solos, and so it's a whole nother world. Now, I got to warn you, Ray, before we say anything, we're getting close to the point where we go off television, but we're going to stay online for everybody. We're having too much fun with this conversation, so make sure Twitch, Twitter, all on Jeff Plankenhorn, YouTube, and Facebook if we go off. So I want so real quick before we go offline, I always like to ask the one question that I ever have for my guests is this: what is your guilty pleasure music? Do you have a guilty pleasure?
Oh my God.
What's your favorite guilty pleasure that people might not know that you like?
Okay. I'm so excited because the day I tuned in and watched Jessica and Guy, I was typing. I was so excited. My guilty pleasure, and it should be everyone's, not even a guilty pleasure. You should check it out. Is William Shatner's Has Been. It is the best album. It is. It's got Matt Chamberlain. See, that's what people do. They laugh, but I'm telling you, brilliant. Common people album. He's got so many great people on it. And
We're going to put that. I'm sure Danielle or somebody right now is going to put that in the comments.
Here's the other guilty pleasure. No one else, I guarantee you, has ever said this. Mr. Rogers. When I was in college and I, took all my vinyl to college and I set up my stereo and I would eat my mac and cheese, I would put on Mr. Rogers. And he had this beautiful album. He's playing piano, but he was singing these songs like Tree, Tree, Tree.
Yeah.
And he
there was
had
a calming effect.
It was, and people would walk down the hall, it was my first semester in college, and they would look in the door and they'd go, who is that? And I would go, Mr. Rogers. And that's how I would make friends sometimes. It was, but to this day, I can put on Mr. Rogers if it's instrumental or his singy-songy stuff. It's so authentically sweet. It's not overwhelmingly sweet. It just gives you peace of mind, just like the documentary about him or the film about him. It's just, what a good human being. And I will say,
it's kind of hard to argue with.
I would like to be Mrs. Rogers. I think I want to bring the world together in my own little weird way. And I will not quit. And I save up my money so I can pay for things like this video because I had a license that Rolling Stone song. It wasn't a free thing for me to do.
Oh no, I'll bet. Hey, Danielle asked, I'm so sorry to interrupt again. Danielle asked, the Shatner album is called
Has Been.
Has Been. So she's going to put that in. And then what's a good Mr. Rogers?
I think the first one is just called Mr. Rogers. I remember it's green and it's got his face and he's got his sweater on. It has another song in there called When I Grow Up, I Really Want to Marry. I really want to marry my mom. And then this woman, and she's like, you really can't marry. You really can't. But, it's like, you couldn't do this today.
Oh, I know. Hey, we only got about 20 more seconds online. Everybody, we're going to continue this online. Once again, big, huge thanks to Sara Hickman, and we're going to be continuing this online for a few minutes. And big thanks to Sheila Steele, Austin Music TV, Channel 16, Channel 99, ATTUverse, and come check us. Thanks very, very much for this. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Okay, now we should be, because it's always 11:58 and 34 seconds. We're over online now, and we're going to finish up these questions because we're having too much fun. Stay on for 5 or 10 minutes, and then you stay on with me. Okay, sounds great, because we've still got a lot of people online. We still got a lot of questions we didn't answer. Here's a really, really fun one. I love this question, and I really wanted to ask this. Nikki had 3 little quick questions. One, what kind of paints do you use for the painted rocks?
Oh, I use acrylic.
Acrylic paints. Okay, Nikki, there you go.
To seal them if you want, but I don't. I like things to naturally disintegrate over time. But so I use acrylic.
I think I wrote this one down wrong because I'm looking at it now and it looks like I spelled it wrong. When did you start making mandalas? Am I thinking mandalas?
No, it's mandalas.
It is mandalas. Okay.
Mandalas.
Oh, it is N.
Yeah, the Indian mandalas.
Yeah, I thought I spelled that wrong and it wasn't mandalas.
So
when did you start making mandalas?
I probably started about 25 years ago, and I teach creativity classes and songwriting classes like you do. And one of the things we do during my week, if you take a whole week with me, is our final day, we build mandalas. We go outside, we find a sacred space. You create your own mandala with an intentional word or phrase. So during this pandemic, I thought, I should be sharing mandalas. So I would take chalk and pastels and go around Austin and draw these 5-foot in diameter mandalas that take hours for free, just to leave to make people happy. The biggest one I did was, I think it was 12-foot in diameter on top of a parking garage for Forrest and Linda Priest.
What?
Yeah, and then it ended up in the newspaper because I didn't know they were taking photos, and they put it in the Statesman, which was really nice. So
very, very cool stuff. Dan Jason, who does so much recording and helped out so much with my Everybody's Purgatory Players thing this weekend, where we raised over 60,000 meals in 2 hours for the Central Texas Food Bank. Dan, thank you so much for your help with that. He has a great question. Do you remember? Sometimes Dan, if I remember correctly, he asks these questions that people don't necessarily remember. I think he's got a better memory than a lot of us musicians. Maybe it's because he videos a lot of stuff. He says, do you remember being in the Domestic Science Club? He said there were some beautiful harmonies on the Three Women album.
Okay.
Is that something you could just mention about?
Yes. So Domestic Science Club was a result of my friend Robin Macy leaving the Dixie Chicks, which she founded.
Yes.
Went into this sorrowful place. And so Patty Mitchell-Legge, me, and Robin Macy just kind of were fooling around on stage at Fort David's Pub in Dallas for a Christmas special I was doing. And people loved it. So then Robin was like, well, why don't we do this all the time? So we came up with the name Domestic Science Club because women, when they would go to college, could get a domestic science degree.
Domestic science only, right?
And so we actually had a second album out too called, well, maybe that's the second one, Three Women. And the first one was just Domestic Science Club. And the second one was Three Women, which we had phenomenal musicians playing on it with us. They're great albums. And I'm really sad. We were a little ahead of Squirrel Nut Zippers. If we'd come out around the same time, I think we would have toured with them, which would have been really cool. But yeah, you can find it out there. It's hard to find the music. I have some of the original Domestic Science Club, the first CDs for sale if anybody wants some. And then the second one, I only have one copy of that CD, which is a drag.
Really?
Yeah. Thanks for asking.
Well, that's going to happen sometimes, right? You know, it's like maybe we can take that one copy and put it on YouTube so people can listen to it someday. Who knows?
Yeah.
Not a bad idea.
It's just me doing stuff.
Oh, Kate Howard. Yes, I did get your questions, Kate. I'm sorry. She has two questions. One, you were one of Johnny Carson's favorite singers. Did the import of that register at the time? Kate always puts things so eloquently. Or would that have put too much pressure on you as a performer?
Well, first of all, I've never heard that. So I
You never heard that?
I got to go on his show twice, and I'm really honored. I don't know that I was one of his favorites, but gosh, if that's what it seemed like, he did have me over to the sofa twice, which normally.
Oh, yeah, that's not what happens. Yeah, that's not what happened usually. He didn't even have. Rarely did a comic get over there, and then even way less rarely did a musician, singer, anything get over there.
Yeah. You know, here's what happens when you go on a show like that. You know, the first time I went on, they had me on because the talent coordinator had seen me sing a song called Too Fast that was on my Shortstop album. And at the rehearsal, he came back into the green room, and I think it was like 30 minutes before showtime. And he said, well, you can't sing that song. And I said, why not? And he said, because it's a little too naughty for our audience. And I was like, what? And he said, so you'll have to sing another song or rewrite the lyrics. And I was like, I'm not gonna, I just rehearsed with Doc Severn and the whole band or whatever, And he said, well, that's what I thought you'd say. So I took the liberty and rewrote the lyrics for you. And my manager's there, the people from Elektra are there, and I'm like, no. And everybody's like sweating, like, just say yes, just do what he wants. I'm like, no. So my friend Brad McLemore ran out to the band. And this is my first time to go on a show that big ever.
Oh, yeah. Much less the biggest show.
Yeah, at the time. And he runs out there, no chord chart. He's telling the band, okay, we're going to have to change the song to this song. During the performance, and you can see it online. You can go look up Sara Hickman on Johnny Carson. At the end of the song, and he's over there going, G, sing. It's a big rock song.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, we're at the end, and I do this big, but the band keeps going because they were like into it. And he's going, stop. So you see me, all you see is me. You don't see the band. But you see the band keep going. So I just start playing guitar again and thinking, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And I was so mad. Not at my friend Brad, thank God. But
for our friends on Facebook, Dan Jason has put it into the comments. You can go watch it, and I'm happy to say that now that we're off the air, I can do the call to action thing and say, go watch it. Go watch it. Go watch it. Go watch it. I know I'm going to go watch it after this.
Dan,
fantastic. Yeah, my friends and everybody out here who comes to these shows, I love how you guys all share stuff and talk to each other. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. I mean, that's what I love about this show.
Jeff, aren't we? Like, really? It's a miracle. It's beautiful. The groups of of family we make everywhere we go with our music. I'm so grateful. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Jeff. I can't be full of more gratitude than I am right now. Thank you.
It's pretty darn fun, and I feel the same way. I'm constantly humbled by it and never take credit for anything that goes on because there's always a ton of people behind it. We haven't even talked at all about the movies, being in When Angels Sing. Would you ever consider actually Susan Darrow, who always Susan Darrow over at KPFT, also every week she kind of like checks out. She's so knowledgeable that if at the beginning of the show I don't have a few questions ready, she has helped me out. And sometimes I'll mention Betsy from Berkeley. And Betsy from Berkeley means I have another question from Susan that I think is so great, I want to say it.
Okay.
So Betsy from Berkeley was like, would you like to be part of another movie someday? Or do you think that's something you would be interested in doing? Or is it kind of like, because I mean, people, there's a lot that goes into it behind the scenes, the smoke and mirrors of making a movie. And
going in the studio, people think, oh, I want to come see you record. And I'm like, no, you don't.
It's so boring. Yeah. It's so boring.
Go, you're right. And they leave. That's how making a movie is. It's a lot of standing around or sitting in your trailer or talking to people on the crew. The first movie,
30 seconds of magic.
Yeah. The first movie I was in was with Drew Barrymore in a movie called Doppelganger, which is a horrible movie. And the experience has a lot to be said, which I'm not going to say right now. And then Angels Sing that Turk Pipkin wrote, and I was so amazed. He asked me and Lily to be in it. And he, I think, added in the part for me because when I went to the audition, I think Lily actually went into audition before me and came out and grabbed me and said, Mom, come in. And you don't do that on an audition. You don't leave the audition and go. So I was looking at her like, oh, shoot. So I walked in with her and
we could definitely say shit now.
Okay. He was like, Lily tells me that you two sing together. And I was like, yeah. So and I had read the script and I knew that there was Feliz Navidad was in it. And Lily and I had never sung Feliz Navidad together, but I was like, we can do Feliz Navidad.
It's all unison. There's no harmonies.
No,
it's all unisons.
Lily sang a harmony to me like that.
Oh, good. Because in the original, it's just unison straight through the song.
We had some, and then we sang another song. He let us sing the whole 3 minutes of the song, which is also never heard of. And somewhere they filmed us for this audition. So I guess Turks and the director wrote a part for me where I'm I'm Turk's wife, so I'm Harry Connick Jr.'s sister-in-law, and I make a 7-pepper pie or a 7-pepper cake. It's got different kinds of hot peppers in it, and I serve it to Harry Connick and Dana.
He loses it?
And Connie Britton. Huh?
Does he lose it? Does he lose? Is he ready for a 7-pepper pie?
Well, there was one piece where it looks like I cut it, but that piece had no peppers in it. And there's just laden with peppers when they show a visual of it. So I cut that piece and I hand him the piece. But even he acts like, it's really good. Yeah. I got to be a bit like, I just got to be myself. I got to be a comedian and that was really fun. So if I got to be more comedian, I would definitely do it. But
yes, okay. I like that. Okay, so we talked a little bit about Sanford Community Center in Palacios. Did we talk a little bit about that when you were talking about?
Oh yeah. Well, let me just say it's
Go ahead.
It's if people wanted to support us, that would be great because we've been renovating so far. I think I've raised almost $100,000. I'm just a volunteer. I just kind of fell into it. It's for my friend Troy Lewis, who I didn't know. I met him the day I saw the old building. He saved it from being razed by the city of Palacios, and he purchased it from the independent school district there. And it's a 5,000 square foot building on an acre of land, parkland. So we have a park, and Troy's grandfather built this building in 1928 at 7 cents an hour. And it was the only school ever for Black kids in Matagorda County. So it really provided a beautiful service, and it gave kids a lot of structure and a lot of fun, and they built their own community because being Black hasn't been fun in America. So when they did desegregate as you know, in desegregation, it happened in 1954, but not until 1964 in Texas, 10 years later. And of course, we're still a very racist state.
Oh yeah.
So this
Well, and also
is great because we get to talk about the past, we get to talk about the future, and we get to support our community through the past and the future and the present. So it's a great building.
you know, representation as far as having someone who looks like you teach, having someone who looks like you work, having someone who looks like you in a position. We don't really think enough about how important that is, as well as integration. Integration is very, very important, you know, but
well, I think the whole thing about Black Lives Matter, which has been around longer than people realize.
Very much so.
Is that it's gotten, it's made the conversation apparent and transparent, and it's the most important conversation this country needs to have. They're still not having it, as you can see by President Trump, who is a white supremacist. The fact that he became president, and appalling that half of our country just voted for him again. So the conversation needs to get bigger, and needs to get swifter. It needs to be. I see my kids, and they are so far advanced. You know, they're talking about transgender issues and non-binary issues and Black issues, and they give me so much hope, and they constantly correct me, which is good. Sometimes it's a little unnerving. Try to be current, but you know.
Yeah, but you know, I mean,
I'm grateful to my kids because. And the kids they went to school with, it was really cool to come downstairs and make snacks for people, and there'd be a couple transgender kids, a Black kid, a Chicano kid, and my daughter. I would be like, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah, I think the amplification of voices is key, and you know, voices that are not getting heard, and talking about it less and listening more. Being a middle-aged white guy is usually my modus operandi.
Wow, Larry King said his high school didn't integrate until 1970.
1973. Insane, right?
Well, right? And there's still all white schools, you know.
There's still plenty of them. Still plenty of work to do. Speaking of your daughters, Susan also asked, what are your daughters? She says, your daughters are both so creative. What are they doing during these pandemic times? If you just have a quick minute for that.
Okay, a quick minute. First of all, Lily is non-binary, so they go by they now. So Lily is still making music, but mostly doing a lot of great art. And you can check out their page on Etsy, Lily, L-I-L.
Perfect. We could put that in there if we could.
Art. And then my other daughter, Io, who is 20, is a fantastic artist. She has an Etsy page too, and she's making shrinky-dink earrings and pops, and they're so awesome. And it's so cool to watch her come downstairs and make, you know, because you have to make them really big and then they shrink.
Yeah,
down. Yeah. And my dad, this painting behind me is by my dad, my little sister, and my mom and me, and that's another painting in the painting. He did this painting, and then he incorporated it into this painting. So,
I love it.
And my mom was a weaver. So I come from a family of very creative people. And in fact, to me, things like the pandemic, aside from the hurt and the sorrow it has caused, is anytime there's chaos, it's an opportunity for creativity and new ways of thinking. So I'm really grateful to my parents for giving me that brain, and then the fact that it has been shared with my kids, and they will share it with their friends, and so on and so on. So.
Can we also, I don't know about you, but I, as much as I can't stand that it had to come out of this, maybe the connection of people, or people starting to use the technology for better things, or maybe people finding themselves because they're stuck at home. So many of us artists have been like, oh my gosh, I'm picking up the guitar for fun, not just because I've got a gig to work on. Yeah. So, you know, you've got these things. I have so many people who picked up artistic things later in life. Yeah. I have so many people who never did anything with music that have started now and have gotten good at it. And I just really find that in this time when we are locking down again and people are trying to be safe because, you know, the numbers are spiking, just to remember to be fearless like a child, and to remember that this never too late thing is 100% true. I don't care if you want to learn how to play Johnny Cash chords, or you want to learn how to, there's just, everything is so available to you, and that
Well,
outlet.
I want to emphasize, if I can, our culture makes it cool to be young and to do stuff when you're young, and then you
Yeah.
kind of fade out. And for example, when I first was getting into the music industry, and I loved this, somebody said to me, well, you're going to be a career artist, not a single sensation. And I thought that was great, because I don't feel like my age should define what I'm doing and creating and how I think. And because actually, I think as we get older, we should be more revered, and more of our experiences and wisdom should be appreciated. And it makes me really sad.
And drawn upon.
Like when people will come, you've probably had people happen this with you too, is people will come up to me at a show and they go, oh my gosh, I remember when we were in high school together and I had a dream and I was going to be a dancer and you followed your dream. And I'm like, you can still dance.
It's not done. Yeah, it's not done.
Anyone, but it hurt my heart because, to me, it's just like I stepped away from music because I was tired, and then I started focusing more on my art and on my social justice stuff, which I would make music, which is probably why I'm tired. But I don't think of it as it's over. I think of it, what's tomorrow going to bring, and I want that for everyone. So I'm glad that your friends are. That our friends are starting to pick up the guitar or the banjo or whatever you're doing. You do it, and you do it.
Well,
and then if you get some practice, great. But
yeah, and anything, and it's we're so lucky to live in a time where we can say, well, I don't really care if I don't have a lot of Spotify listeners. I'm still working on it, and I'm glad it's growing because I have a Patreon page, and there's a little plug, and those people want to hear my music every month, and they get to hear new things. And because I have all these different outlets that can make me feel connected. And I don't have to worry also about, I don't have to worry about this. Look, 1 month I do a song I wrote with Kimmy Rhodes and it kind of has a bluegrass feel. And the next month I do a Prince song and a funk song with Yogi. And my fans like all of it.
Of course they do.
Great. It doesn't matter what bin it goes in. Just make the art and let somebody else deal with it.
Another thing that's nice about the change in the industry is, what box did I fit in when I was, it was so infuriating.
Right. What bin are they going to put my CD in?
Yeah, my first guru was Carl Finch from Brave Combo, and he was like, don't just be a girl with a guitar. And he showed me all this world music back before world music was a thing.
Sure.
And my first album was all over the place. All the songs on there were, there was not 2 songs that sounded alike. And yet Elektra embraced it the way it was. And then, of course, the second album, they were like, well, now we need to hone you in. And
of course they did.
I don't know how to be one thing.
Yeah.
I like going over there working with Jeff and Yogi on this, and I like going over working with Prince on this. So that's what I am. So I think that's the nice thing about now, like, and what you're doing with Patreon is really cool. And I just have to say a little plug here to Popeyes.
Do it.
I sing the Popeyes commercial, and I've sung it for 13 years. And I'm so grateful to Popeyes because they allow my family and I to do all the things we wanted. Yeah, they stepped in when the music industry was getting a little and so I have to say, commercial jingles, thank you, and movies.
Do them. Yeah, and also, like, for people out there who are worried about that kind of thing or playing on things, I love, somebody asked me, they were like, oh, well, what about selling out and da-da-da-da-da? First of all, I like the Ray Wiley joke was I didn't have the heart to tell him, nobody asked. And then, so that's pretty funny. But I also say, people are like, oh, well, selling out was done when Willie did the Taco Bell commercial. And I was like, no, that was an IRS thing and you can't blame him. And I said, for me, selling out was not a thing anymore when Dylan did Victoria's Secret.
No, the only thing to me selling out
is not selling.
No. Here's what selling out is. Selling out is when you take your celebrity, like Dennis Miller from Saturday Night Live, and then you completely blow everyone off and become this hardcore right-wing fanatic.
Yeah.
To me, whatever I need to do, as long as it's not hurting anybody, I'm joyful that I get to make music and get some pay for it so I can do the other things like working with orphans in Uganda or Romania, or helping the homeless, or, doing a gratitude project and painting rocks and leaving around. Those experiences help. Oh yeah, you saw my Goodwill ad. That's so
There
cool.
you go. Nikki saw the Goodwill ad.
We just did that because we love the Goodwill, and we got some
There you
clothes.
go.
But yeah, so to me, selling out is when you take the energy you created towards goodness, and then you shift it on everybody because you've gone insane or mad or whatever. That to me is selling out. But I don't think, people don't understand how hard it is to be an artist.
No, just to exist. We're not asking for a lot. We just want to be able to take care of the bills, have a family.
And we want to have food on the table, and we want to be able to send our kids to school, and we want to have no war and no terror.
Hi, Trish Murphy. Love this conversation, y'all. Hey, we'll have you on sometime too. I would love to speak with you.
And Trish is in the video we played. And so,
exactly.
Thank you, Trish. You're awesome.
Thank you so much, Trish. Thank you for everybody who's been here. I'm going to leave with this. This is another thing that Susan Darrow gave me from KPFT that I love so much. And I love public radio so much in Houston, and we're off air now, so I can say this too. Make sure you support public radio just as much as you support other things. It's really, really integral to our music getting played. This is a quote of yours, and I'm going to use this. Sarah, stay on with me. I'm going to say thank you right here, but I love this quote so much. Music doesn't come from somewhere. It comes from someone. Please support music creators by paying for music and attending live shows. That's just such a brilliant way to put it.
You read my little quote. Thank you.
Yeah, that's such a great quote. Music doesn't come from somewhere, it comes from someone. Please support music creators by paying for music and attending live shows, or going to their Patreon page, or buying a coloring book, or subscribing to their YouTube channel, or sharing their music, or hitting follow on Spotify. Whatever you do, it all helps us.
If that was Susan or you, both of you, that means so much that you guys paid attention. Because again, I took time to think about that, and it meant a lot to me.
It's a great quote.
You're saying it. You're the only person I've ever had acknowledge that quote. So
well, we got to thank Susan for giving it to me, but there was no way I wasn't going to end with that because I love that quote so much. Thank you, Sarah, so much. Please stay on with me. Thank you, everybody. Once again, Austin Music TV, Facebook. I'll be doing a show tonight. You guys can check that out, plus Resentments, plus my workshop tomorrow with Scrappy Judd, which is called This Song Sucks, and our patron saint is Ian McLagan. But Sarah, big thanks to you. This has just been so much fun, and I can't wait to do it again. Maybe
I'll hi to Ted Lundgren, because I keep thinking that says Todd Rundgren. I'm sure he gets.
Oh, I will say Ted. He'll like that. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, everybody online. Thanks for sharing this post. Thanks for your tips and donations. We really appreciate that too. All the information's there. And go back and go back through all this and say hello to each other. And it's a wonderful thing for us all to be connected right now in this crazy time. Thank you, Sarah. Bye, everybody.
Bye.